Let's focus our attention now on the hair of the model. So I would like to brighten this part to have a little bit more details visible and to introduce some highlights in this part. So let's quickly create another adjustment layer. Let's add another curves layer, and while having the layer selected, I'm going to sample points from my image. So with this first targeted selection tool, let's select it, I'm going to click on the image now on the brightest part of the hair. So let's say I can click around here, and on the darker area around maybe here. So this part will be blocking change. I don't want to push further the shadows in the hair, but I'm going to very slightly pull this point upwards to brighten the hair. I'm going to actually sample another point. So with having the targeted selection tool selected, I'm going to click around here, because what I need to do is to brighten this part. So I'm going to push it a little bit upwards. Don't worry when we are working with the hair, don't worry at all about the rest of the image. Now we ruined completely the background, the face, but we will fix it. I'm going to mask the hair part, so I'm only looking at the moment at the hair. So let's maybe pull it a little bit downwards, and comparing to the previous version, it's already huge change. Okay, so I have brightened the hair, and now I'm going to actually mask this layer and to introduce those adjustments, those highlights in a very subtle and controlled way with a brush. So as you can see, the adjustment layer, all of them come with the mask attached. When the mask is white, it's represented by this white rectangle. It means that all the changes applied with these adjustment layers are visible in the image. So now I want to invert the mask. So it's very important to have the mask selected, not the adjustment layer. At the moment you can see these 4 corners, so it's indicating that I'm working on the adjustment layer, on the properties with the properties window. So I have to click on the mask thumbnail. Now we have these 4 corners around the mask thumbnail, and having the mask selected, I'm hitting Command I on my keyboard, and as you have noticed, I have inverted the mask, and now none of these changes applied inside this adjustment layer to the hair are visible. In fact, if I toggle off and on this layer, there are no changes whatsoever. Basically, this adjustment is not visible. To make it visible, I'm going to paint on the mask with a soft white brush, and in that way I will reveal those adjustments that I have applied with the curves. It can sound a bit complicated, but it's really very simple. All you need to do is just repeat these steps several times, practice, and it will be just part of your working process. It will become part of your technique. You won't be thinking of this anymore. You will be applying this in a very intuitive way. So after we have inverted the mask, after we have this thumbnail black, I'm going to work with a brush. So I have to select the brush either from here or by hitting B on my keyboard, and exactly the same way as we were working with the liquify filter and increasing and decreasing size of the tool, the brush, I'm going to work exactly the same way now. So to increase the size of my brush, I'm pressing the right square bracket on my keyboard, pressing and holding, and to decrease the size of a brush, I'm pressing and holding the left square bracket. It's very important to have these color samples resetted to the default colors, to have white as a foreground sample and black as a background sample. To reset those color samples, you need to press D on your keyboard, and to swap, you need to press X. So when I'm pressing X, the background sample jumps in front and the front jumps to the back. So notice what happens when I press the X several times. Okay, so to reveal the result that I have applied to the hair with the adjustment layer with the curves, I have to paint with a soft brush with white color on the black mask. So by pressing X, I'm placing the white color as the foreground sample. I have the brush selected, and now I need to decrease opacity. If I would be working with opacity set at 100, look what will happen. Let's increase the size a little bit, and if the opacity was set at 100, the change will be very, very strong. I don't want to have it that way. I would like to work gradually and to introduce these adjustments in a very subtle and controlled way. To do this, I have to decrease the opacity. You can either do this here by pulling this slider. However, very, very simple and a very effective technique is to just introduce those values from your keyboard. If I hit 2 on my keyboard, it sets opacity to 20%. If I hit 4, it sets to 40. If I hit 0, it sets to 100. So I'm looking for opacity around 20%. So I just pressed 2 on my keyboard. I'm going to zoom in on the hair, maybe decrease the size of the brush slightly, and start painting over these areas that I would like to brighten. So I would like to introduce a little bit more highlights here, maybe a little bit here. Let's zoom out, let's increase the size of the brush, and just to go over the hair in a very subtle way. To control the effect we are applying, it's very important to toggle on and off. As you can see, I went over this line of her upper body, and this is not what I need, so I want to remove those brightening effects from here. So now I need to be painting with a black color just to get rid of this, as I don't want to brighten this part. So let's press X on the keyboard and decrease size of the brush and just paint over this part with black color, and that way I have removed those changes. Let's increase opacity to 50. I just pressed 5 on the keyboard, that way I will work faster. Okay, that's perfect. Let's zoom out and let's see. I would like to apply maybe a little bit more of these highlights in this part, so let's swap those samples again. I'm painting with white color, and let's increase the size and let's change opacity to 20. So I'm hitting 2 on the keyboard and just painting over this part of the hair to have a little bit more of details. I don't want to have the flat area. So now I can increase size of the brush, zoom out and go over the whole part of the hair. Okay, so that way, in a very simple way with the very few steps, we have brought back the details in the hair of our model. In the next lecture, in the next video, we will focus on applying curves and adjusting light to the overall body and to the face.